you is that you have ambition to be great. My job is to coach you to get all that greatness out of you.
What's good, Fin Nation? What's good? It's your boy Reason, and we are back here for another one. It is actually officially episode 500. So thank you, everyone who's been along on this journey. It's been a long one, as we're just under 1,700 subscribers away from 10,000. So let's get there before the season starts. But I am joined by, now second time on the show, the Sun Sentinel's David Furones, who covers the Miami Dolphins. David, welcome back to the show. Thanks for coming on, brother.
Absolutely, man. Thanks for having me.
Always a pleasure to have you on, man. Always a pleasure. So you were obviously at the let's hop right into it, because I know people just want to they're hungry for what the eyes of the media saw at OTAs. So we'll open up with that stuff. When you were at OTAs, you know, your colleague Omar Kelly tweeted out on the day of, you know, he said the first day open to you guys, he said, okay, to his arm, right? It's noticeably different. It's not drastic, but there's a noticeable difference. Now I've heard mixed things. I've heard there isn't. I've heard there is from people that were there. I want to get your take on it. Did you notice a little bit more torque, a little bit more velocity on the football? Because, you know, Nick Hicks, friend of the show, personal friend of mine, they've really worked on the footwork this year. And they really worked on getting that torque back and that zip back in the football, to which he had, you know, in Alabama. I mean, you look at two of the last couple of years, he had a little bit more of an arc under his football, right? When he was putting them a little deep, and they're trying to get that torque back. Did you notice a little bit of a difference, or any difference at all, when it came to the velocity into his football from your days at OTAs?
I would say I probably did notice a slight uptick in it. I wish there were some kind of measurements that we had that to really prove it and tell, okay, what was maybe miles per hour before to what it is now. I would say it seemed to pass the eye test a little bit better than we had seen in the past. Anytime we had seen him live, definitely from when I started on the beat in training camp last year, you know, I felt definitely at this point, and I don't know, maybe some of it could be from just not seeing it in a while, and then now seeing football again after an off season where we're just covering a bunch of coaching changes and free agent acquisitions and getting back to watching it. But so some of it could be that on my eyes, but I thought it was a difference. And, you know, we saw some deep balls hit, and there were some examples too where those intermediate throws that you want to see 20 yards down the field that have some zip on it. There were examples that we saw of that as well. And of course, it wasn't like Tua just tore it up. I mean, he had his down practices as well, where sometimes pressure got to him and he didn't make the right read right away. There was one pick six. So, you know, it wasn't all this flowery image of this newfound velocity. But I would say there was an uptick, I feel.
For sure. Oh, yeah. And I've been telling people, you know, I was told privately by someone who's there that day where he threw the two bombs at the end of the practice to Tyreek. I was told privately up until that point, it was an average day at best from Tua. And then those bombs came out of nowhere and, you know, uptick, you know, I'll use your word there, uptick the day in a lot of people's eyes. But had those bombs not happened, a lot of people were like, you know, it was an average day. It wasn't anything to write home about. I wanted to actually ask you about this, because it popped in my head while you were talking. Did you hear Mike Westhoff's comments on Joe Rose?
Oh, I've heard some rumblings of it. Yeah. Give me the spark notes again. It was a while back now.
No problem. Mm-hmm. He went to one of the mini camp days. I believe it was the second mini camp day. And he said that the practice was so bad offensively that he would have shut off the music and he would have started practice all over again. Basically, he gave the vibe that it was more of a social club than let's get down to work. Let's get the business down there. And you're part of the media. I mean, you know this. When the media isn't around, that's when the real stuff starts hitting the field, right? When the media is around, they show you what they want to show you, right? But he gave this really relaxed, lackadaisical vibe of practice. I'm not here to say, hey, is Mike Westhoff telling the truth or not? But did you see anything like that in terms of, because I know a lot of fans were like, you know, biting their fingers and panicking a little bit, but like, did you get that vibe? Because I thought it was a little bit dramatic, but what did you get the vibe that this was kind of, these practices were social club gatherings more so than getting down to work and business?
I believe from what he said that was probably the first mini camp practice, because I think I definitely noticed the second one looked a lot better,
Okay.
and definitely offensively as well. We saw a better Tua in that second mini camp practice, where he really struggled. It was a defense dominated one in the first one, and maybe the offense definitely looked kind of like that lackadaisical, like you said. As far as the vibe, I mean, they were still working. It was nothing like I would have had to really been looking for something to pick at to say there was kind of that vibe from the practice itself. I mean, just from watching it, I didn't get that particular impression.
Yeah.
Let's say, yeah.
You talk about the defense dominating. We've heard a lot of stuff about Noah Igbinoghene. Are you buying or are you selling in terms of, you remember OTAs last year? Again, it was, they released the pictures. Noah had the shades on. Noah looked the part. But he really struggled when, everything hit the fan and everything mattered. How has he looked early on in OTAs? And, I know I've heard he puts in the work. He works his tail off. But, I mean, should we be believing the hype, or are you still taking a wait and see approach with Noah Igbinoghene?
Yeah, definitely more wait and see. I wish he would have done more with the opportunity in OTAs, because Xavier Howard isn't participating. We know what we're going to get out of him if you're the Dolphins once you get to the season. And Byron Jones still working back from that lower leg surgery that he had. So really, I mean, he had an opportunity to go with the ones on defense. And, there were, now granted, this is against Tyreek Hill, sometimes where he got burned on a couple. So, yeah, you wish you would have seen a little bit more consistency out of him in those practice reps, but, still a work in progress for him. I wish we would have seen him do a little bit more with those opportunities.
What have your impressions been of Tyreek, David? Because the one thing that's really stood out to me is put a C on that man's chest. He's come here, sure, he got paid, but the leadership role that he's already exemplifying, not just with like building to his confidence and talking to his quarterback, and we'll get into that, but also Jalen Waddle, how he's taking Jalen Waddle under his wing, and just how he's answered questions and such. Have you been really impressed with Tyreek off the field just as much as you've been impressed on the field with him?
Sure. I mean, the way he's talking about Tua, I think he might give the 2-1-on account holder a run for their money as far as the leader for him. But yeah, I mean, he's backing up his quarterback. He's showing that he has confidence in him, and I think it's not all just blowing smoke. He's liked what he's seen. He's had the ball now come to him from Tua's arm, and I think he's enjoyed catching the ball from him, and likes the way it comes out of his hand. And yeah, when you see him on the field, I mean, yeah, that speed is electric. Even in some OTA sessions where just one time where I think a play was blown dead, but then he just kept running when the defense stopped, and your head just turns like as you're following him, because he's just running so fast. So it's been impressive to watch, and you like what he's bringing as a guy who's come from a winning organization, trying to instill some of that into the Dolphins. You like it.
Do you think Waddle stands a chance in a foot race?
But I've seen some conflicting information on the miles per hour tracking next gen stats, or I don't know who else tracks it. But I saw one that had Waddle with a faster time last year in game than that Waddle or that Hill had at some point. I know Hill has had historically more of the 20+ mile per hour plays for sure. But maybe that top speed, he'll give him a run for his money. And you can't forget Raheem Mostert as well in this conversation. Granted, coming off of the knee injury, and he's 30 now, but here's a guy who has consistently put up, I'm pretty sure some seasons has had the fastest play in that season while carrying the ball. Maybe now you have to look at just straight lines. Are we running this race without a ball in your hand? Is it just a 40-yard dash? So yeah, there's 3 top of the line candidates there. You got to love the speed on this roster.
Let's talk about the running back position for a second from what you saw at OTAs. The one guy who's continuously popped up, whether he's been private conversations I've had or whether it's been actually, reading one of your guys' article, has been Zacondre White. In fact, you did a mailbag article recently on this. True. Other than like Salvin Ahmed on that wheel route to Tua and a couple other things, it sounds like Zacondre White's been the consistent performer. Do you think he's going to find a way to squeeze himself in the 53?
It's really interesting. One thing working for him is that he also can help on special teams. Is early in his college career, he played some linebacker, so um, he can benefit from that if he can contribute there. That's a way to find a roster spot. It is a lot of names to get up and over in this running back group. So initially, when the first time I got the question about him, and I was still kind of on edge about it because there are so many names. You brought in 3 free agent running backs: Chase Edmonds, Raheem Mostert, and then later Sony Michel. Even when you already had this depth, and you still have Myles Gaskin, Savon Ahmed in this running back core. So
Alec
it's just a lot of
spot.
Right, and then you have a fullback in this. So that's just another dynamic that a fullback is going to take one of the 53. So there is that factor as well. But I mean, Mike McDaniel he has had Zaquandre White on his radar. That's for sure.
Yeah.
He was the first guy he mentioned. If you remember that interview. When he was kind of given the open floor on which undrafted rookies have impressed him, and the main guy he talked about was
Dr. White.
Dr. White, he called him. He's the doctor. I got to ask him how he got that nickname. How did he come up with that? But yeah, and I mean, McDaniel also tempered those comments, saying, hey, running backs are expected to be a little bit ahead of others. And, we also haven't seen a lot of the other running backs yet, the ones that we know will be definitely on the roster because they were signed to be in this run game. OTAs, still a long way to go, but, White's on the right track so far.
Do you get a sneaking suspicion in your gut that Gaskin might get cut? I mean, the reason why I say this to you is because Salvon Ahmed was brought in as a UDFA. I believe he was a UDFA to San Francisco under Shanahan and McDaniel. They loved him. They tried to move him to the practice squad. We scooped him. The first move the McDaniel regime does offensively when they come here, they tendered Salvon Ahmed, right? Their boy. And, and he's kind of like a Gaskin clone with a little bit more upside athleticism wise. I mean, you kind of get the feeling that Gaskin, especially with the emergence of Zaquandre White, Gaskin might be the odd man out, which is crazy to think back that 2 years ago he emerged, thank God, above Kalen Ballage at a training camp. But you know what I mean? But would that shock you at this point from what you've seen and what you know about who they brought in signing, that if Gaskin is the odd man out? Because there's no way he's making it to the practice squad.
Right. I don't think it would shock me for all the reasons that's why your name is Reason, right?
Yeah.
For all the reasons you just pointed to there, and just the numbers we were just talking about in the last answer. You brought in these 3 running backs to play a role on this team, and as Zaquandre White is emerging, and Savon Ahmed, and Myles Gaskin isn't a guy that you're going to stash on the practice squad. So, it's amazing. A guy who just it wasn't even a full year ago. We're talking about, the Dolphins' possibly top fantasy option on the Dolphins roster is Myles Gaskin, thought of like as an RB2 borderline. And then even mid-season, then you started to see, well, that's why Duke Johnson emerged, and the team felt they needed to acquire Philip Lindsay, and then these guys surpassed him almost, or at least in Lindsay's case, kind of drew even with him in getting carries later on, and Duke certainly passed him by the end of last season. So, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me, I'll say.
Okay, so I know you can't talk about who's where, but I'll tell you what I've been told, all right? I've been told, all right, Armstead at left tackle, Eichenberg at left guard, Connor Williams at center, Robert Hunt at right guard, Austin Jackson at right tackle. You don't need to confirm or deny. So...
we've talked about. We can report what people have talked about, whether it be Mike McDaniel and players, and then I think we've pretty much narrowed it down to exactly what you just said. Even if we may or may not have seen this ever. Yeah, we've heard about it in interviews. So so we can go with it.
Let's go with this. All right, let's go with this. All right, and I'm gonna give myself the old Barry Horowitz pat on the back, because I told everyone when he signed Mike McDaniel, Austin Jackson's going to be right tackle. He's got the athletic profile they love. Bank it, all right? And the draft capital invested. All right, so let's go with this. Let's start off with Eichenberg. Brother, you've covered the Hurricanes. You've covered the Dolphins. You know football. You've been around football, okay? Do you think Eichenberg has the anchor to be a guard? Because at 301.66, what we saw last year, power rushers off the edge, not guys who are inside 300 plus pounds that are pure power. They're loaded low to the ground. They got good contact balance and driving you. Do you think Eichenberg's got, and I know how zone works, working twos, you're going to get a lot of help, but do you really think this is a feasible option at guard going forward?
But and yeah, now in the second year and his whole draft profile, then definitely that's what everyone was expecting, that he would play tackle and that he was better suited for it to play on the outside because he was more smooth there.
Yeah.
Than he would project to a guard, even if some were saying, okay, guard / tackle. But yeah, so that's how it played out his rookie season. And then now it would be interesting, at least in this scheme, then it fits the athletic type more. So maybe even if he doesn't have that weight, now he still would have to build up to it. So probably an off-season program this next month before you get into training camp, almost month and a half. Maybe you do want to see him bulk up and build that anchor a little bit more, to use the term you use there. But yeah, at least I think the scheme could help him too in that regard. So there is reason to feel optimistic that it could happen. And hey, if not, look, they've seen him through OTAs and minicamp mostly there. And I know when he talked about it, he mentioned Mike McGlinchey, one of his former Notre Dame fellow lineman there, that has done some of the same in San Francisco, guard, and then also, but mostly tackle over there, which is kind of how Eichenberg would project as well. But yeah, give him the benefit of the doubt right now, and then I think we'll see something different at the start of training camp if this staff does not feel comfortable in what they see with him at that position.
Brother, is Dieter that bad right now? I've heard, I heard before they publicly announced the whole Connor Williams thing, I heard he was muffing snaps. I heard his communication wasn't that great. I just heard he was kind of a disaster early on in OTAs, and now he's been moved out. How do you feel with the whole moving a guy around like we're doing with Connor Williams? When, let's be honest, the guy's a top 5, top 7 run blocking guard in the NFL. Let's be honest here, this is one of the best run blocking guards in the NFL, and we could have one of the most formidable left sides in the NFL if he was left at guard. And the whole not taking care of it and sitting on our hands a little bit, now we've had to move a guy out of position. And that's another reason why I think they're comfortable with Eichenberg. They think they can squeeze him in between Armstead and Connor Williams, and that'll kind of alleviate some of the stuff for him. But my thing is, Connor Williams is going to be focused on learning a new position and playing with bullets flying at a new position, and he can't be worrying about Eichenberg right now. So what are your whole thoughts on the whole Connor Williams? And, it's really worrisome, David, because early on, they've already told us, yeah, if Connor Williams goes down, we're kind of effed at center with they've already kind of let us know that, that this guy's just not capable enough. What are your thoughts on the whole Connor Williams center experience? Because I agree with what you said. Give them the benefit of the doubt. These guys, this is the best offensive line oriented staff we've had since I can remember, okay? Frank Smith, Mike McDaniel, Matt Applebaum, they know more than this whole community combined about the offensive line, all right? So I agree with you, give them the benefit of the doubt. But some things like that kind of do raise your people's eyebrow a little bit. What did you think about the whole Connor Williams experiment?
Sure. And Connor Williams does have some experience now, granted, preseason snaps and, other offseason OTAs and such when he's been in Dallas. So, but I mean, regular season games in his 4-year NFL career, he's exclusively really been a guard. So, yeah, I agree with you. It is a little concerning to just you sign a guy and then you're immediately changing positions for him. Now, granted, based on all their expertise, everyone you mentioned on this offensive staff, if they didn't feel comfortable with him, then, I mean, I feel like J.C. Treader would probably be on this roster right now, who's still available, last I checked, as a free agent. So they went through OTAs and minicamp, and I think there was one practice where we did see some snapping issues. But Connor Williams has attacked it head on. He's excited about the move. Aside from that one day where snaps were off, I think he's been solid there. I understand wanting him at the position he's played for the entirety of his career. But they've seen this line, the way it's set up now through this offseason workout session, OTAs and minicamp, and again, same way. If there is some reason to really be concerned, then we'll see something different. And by the time training camp starts, and then someone might be added to this offensive line group. I think that'll be a telling sign if you do see a move made.
What are your thoughts on Austin Jackson? Now, he played a little bit of right tackle in high school. I know everyone wants to talk about, this is a make it or break it year for Tua. Isn't this kind of a make it or break it year for Austin Jackson? Because Tua's given us W's. Tua's given us flashes. Tua's given us substance. Austin Jackson hasn't given us very much at all. What are your thoughts on this? Like, because this is going to lead into another question, but what are your thoughts on Austin Jackson at right tackle? He's obviously got the perfect athletic profile. I mean, he's the closest thing athletic profile we have on this team to Teron Armstead. He's got the perfect athletic profile for what we want to run with this outside zone. It's just he's got to be coached up fundamentally and technique-wise, hand placement, footwork, etc. And he's got to get a little bit of a dog in him, You get some plays where he's sitting with it, he's literally standing there with his hands on his hips, and you got to kill that stuff. That won't last in this era. But what are your overall thoughts on him starting at right tackle?
Yeah, so he'll get another chance to tackle after getting kicked inside to guard mid-season. Well, a few games in, week 3 or 4, if I recall, last year. Now it's going to be interesting. You got him with a left-handed quarterback protecting to his blind side, and we saw how much he struggled when he was at left tackle in those early games last season against the pass rush, against whether it be speed rushers a lot of the time, moving laterally, and then you kind of limit how much he had to do that in pass protection when you kicked him inside to guard. So now he's going to be right back out there on the opposite side, and now to his blind side where we saw if a hit comes over, you can have what happened in that Buffalo game week 2 when Jesse Davis, no longer with us, allowed AJ Epinesa for Buffalo to go in and get a free shot at Tua's ribs. You don't want that to repeat itself. So Austin Jackson will be counted on, and he's going to play a very important role if he sticks there. So it's his time to step up right now, and he's got to do it.
Does the depth on this offensive line worry you? I was a huge fan of Kellen Dyche coming out of Arizona. I love the kid. Huge fan of their
Arizona State, right?
Yeah, Arizona State. Yeah, I was a huge fan of a couple of the guys in that coming out of there. Rumored we wanted their running back, and he was one of my man crushes in this draft class too. But you look at it, Larnell Coleman, Robert Jones, Solomon Kinley. Here's a good question for you before I ask you the depth. Is Solomon Kinley? Are we still, from what you've seen, has he slimmed down at all, or are we talking the same weight issues from last year that got him in the doghouse?
I didn't get a good look at him to see if he's really slimmed down. I think he's still listed at the same weight.
Yeah.
But I mean, he's still a bigger guy. We'll say. Noticeably, more so than the others.
So are you? And he's like, we talk about scheme. That's a power gap guy. He's not built for what we're going to be asking guards to do.
Right.
Are you really worried about the depth? Because David, we're one injury away from being in the exact same position as last year, plus whoever doesn't get injured. And by that I mean Taron Armstead. He's never played a full 16 games in his whole career. We got to count him out for probably at least 2 or 3 games, hoping, knock on wood, he doesn't miss anything. But who's going to step in for those 2 or 3 games? Like, there's just no reliable depth here. Like, perfect example. You look at Riley Reif, right? Didn't the Jets sign Riley Reif and then the Bills signed Greg Van Rotten? It was either that or I think that's how it went. But look, they're still adding depth guys that if someone goes down, guys, veterans who can step in for 2 or 3 games, you don't got to lean on them for a full 16. Do you feel that the depth on this offensive line is a big issue?
Yeah, I mean, I would probably like to see one more solid guy that you can depend on get in there. You mentioned Robert Jones. I did like what I saw out of him last year as an undrafted guy. And, obviously he didn't play that much up until then. That finale, we saw him get a start there, and he held it down pretty well.
Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, you mentioned Solomon Kinley. Doesn't seem like a scheme fit here. Michael Dieter would figure to be your backup center / he can fill in at guard if there's some rotation issue, if someone needs to move around, someone goes down. Well, yeah, if Teron Armstead is hurt, then you're looking at either a Larnell Coleman or you got to count on Greg Little, one of them to play left tackle, right? And exactly that expression you just made right there. So, Kellen Diesch is an interesting guy, and he, based on the money they gave him guaranteed as an undrafted rookie, it's a telling sign that they do like what they see out of him. And and not even what they see. This was given to him before he even, stepped foot in Dolphins OTAs or rookie minicamp.
They like the tape. They like what they saw.
Yeah, they like the tape. Right, yep. Right. That film. So, he's a guy, and the Dolphins. Omar Kelly had a great stat that the Dolphins have historically almost always. I can't remember what the number is. It's like. Maybe like there was just 1 year only where they did not keep an undrafted rookie onto the 53. I wish I had the stat engraved in my memory to give you, but it was something significant where it showed, generally there isn't an undrafted rookie. So potentially Kellen Diesch could be that guy.
Because David, like and we'll talk about Tua expectations in a bit here, but my expectations for Tua is that he's got to enter the top 12 realm this year. But I honestly think as much as this team will only go as far as Tua and the receivers and the running backs take us, guess what? They'll only go as far as the offensive line takes them. And we saw that
absolutely
last year, right? As much as people don't, they want, you're making excuses for Tua. No, this is the context of the situation. This is a historically bad offensive line. And we've added a guy that we're moving out of position to center and another guy who, until he shows us otherwise, we can't count on for the full 17, right? So it's very worrisome. Let's switch to the defense a little bit here. Eric Rowe. Is this a guy you could see potentially a kid like Verone McKinley coming up and maybe taking snaps and reps away from him? And because Eric Rowe's got like a $4.3 million hit this year, they potentially say, you know what, we want the money.
Right. Yeah. That's 4.5. I think is the difference in what you would save, and yeah, that's why all offseason we considered him a candidate to potentially get cut. And but yeah, I mean, I think you need to see it out of Verone McKinley. I'm not sure how much we have seen so far. Hasn't had too many times where he stood out, let's say flashed through OTAs and minicamp. But I mean, if he takes that step, I mean, he's a guy who can work with Javon Holland. Obviously, they have a great rapport, being fellow Oregon Ducks teammates in the same secondary. If he can get to that level, and he can be another one of those, like we mentioned, these undrafted rookies that historically make this Dolphins roster and takes that step, then that would be somewhere where, you could see yourself comfortable enough. Now, it would take a lot for McKinley because Eric Rowe does provide goals, and it is a factor as well.
Yeah. What are your overall thoughts so far now that you've had a couple months of being around Mike McDaniel? I saw that picture where he introduced himself to all you guys and you reached out and you shook his hand. What are your overall thoughts on Mike McDaniel? And so, like, just from what you've seen early on, does the genius tag hold a little bit of weight?
Yeah, I mean, you can see it in the way he talks. You probably just watching the interviews can recognize that. Every quote, it seems like he is trying to put it in the greatest terms that he can. So like he's always trying to find the best words to express whatever thought he is trying to convey. It really takes pride in that, and I mean, more power to him, man. He's a smart guy, so he can express himself in that way. And yeah, I think he's just a genuine dude too, and just a cool dude. I think his player friendly approach has caught on so far. Doing things like the orange jersey, gets to be practice player of the day, DJ the next practice, and good motivational tool. Players have taken to that. Of course, all this comes down to then how does it translate to the regular season? So, will it be the same if there is a little bit of a losing streak in the season? Will he have to adjust, and how will that play out? But overall, I think from my perspective, he's been really cool to deal with, especially in the media. He's a really good dude.
What if were you shocked when Flores got fired?
That morning after the finale, yes, I was because I thought we had put that storyline behind us. Well, when the team won 7 in a row, 1-7, that last loss before the winning streak in Buffalo. I remember I actually had a tweet drafted in case Flores was fired because he, if you remember, all of us were tweeting about how he has not come out for his post-game press conference an hour, more than an hour after the game was final. All the players had come out and done their interviews when usually it's Flores up first. And we were all wondering what happened. I drafted a tweet and had it ready just in case if someone came out and told us, guys, Brian Flores will not be joining us because he actually just got fired. I didn't even know if it would work out that way for first year on the job, but I said, let me just be prepared for whatever it might happen. But then winning 7 in a row, and then actually getting to a point where the Dolphins were the number 7 team in the postseason standings. I believe before then the Tennessee loss bumped them back down, if I recall how it went down correctly. Then I thought that was already in the past, and then especially going out with a win, sweeping the Patriots and back-to-back winning seasons. I didn't really see that as something that would happen, but sure enough, it did.
I don't want to put you on the spot or anything like that. But last summer, when I started getting really connected to people in the organization and people connected to the organization, is when I started hearing stuff about how Flores conducted himself, and I actually did a couple shows on it last summer, last off season, just talking about stuff I had heard. I'm not asking you for like specific stories or anything like that, but the overall negative vibe. And for example, Nick Hicks, he was on the show a couple weeks ago. I don't know if you saw, but one of the quotes he said went a little bit viral. It was a story he retold about Albert Wilson. I don't know if you saw it, but Albert Wilson basically had told him it was the strangest year he had ever had as a professional football player, walking down the hallway in a single file line, not talking to anybody, and it was nothing but finger pointing in the locker room. And I mean, Barry Jackson had reported in the after the Flores firing too, that a player had told him that, you walk through the hallway with your head down, you don't want to talk to anybody. Had you got the sense that it was a real negative vibe, like dark cloud hanging over type of thing, where it was like, a lot of tension and, a lot of negativity going on and toxicity? Was that something you were aware of, or were you aware of it, but you didn't think it was to the extent that it was with all the stories that came out after the fact of he got fired and such like that? Basically, did you think the environment was toxic enough that it was going to contribute to a firing of a coach?
Because of Brian Flores' personality. So, I mean, I was my first year on the beat, so it's not like, I was getting everything from hearing what was going on behind closed doors yet. I do know, I'll add another story to the ones you mentioned. My colleague Dave Hyde at the Sun Sentinel also reported post Flores firing this locker room meltdown halftime the Tennessee game, between a shouting match between Flores and Tua. And then even really, if you look at Tua, when we asked him about his thoughts on his relationship with Brian Flores, then he didn't have many good things to say. I mean, he said his best memory was the first day. Yeah, it was he got drafted. Yeah, so it seemed like his one bright spot with Brian Flores working with him was that he was drafted, and then I guess it was all downhill in a relationship after that. But yeah, so I mean, I think Flores' personality, I would feel kind of, there was always a little bit of tension in press conferences, let's say. he didn't try to build like these great relationship with the media, like, buddy with us. Just kind of didn't. I wasn't always trying to give you these extensive answers. Just kind of say what he, very Belichickian in that way.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the school that he came from. So, but yeah, I mean, did I imagine that this would result in a firing? No, I mean, especially not after. I mean, let's face it, his first year. Granted, we know the team was trying to tank that year, but he's the head coach and he's supposed to be winning games. So just because you give him a roster that's really difficult to win with, well, then he goes and wins 5 games. And that was actually, I mean, I remember those first 2 weeks of that 2019 season. I wasn't covering yet, but just watching it, I said, there's no way this team even comes close in any game. And, by midseason, then they were playing tight games and then suddenly winning 5 games, including a very important game at New England that meant playoff seeding, a first-round bye for the Patriots. And then getting to 10-6 in the second year, and then another winning season the final year. So, yeah, I mean, I was not prepared for the firing at that point in time, but then you heard all the reasons why the organization, Steve Ross, felt that way later on.
And like 2019, man, Fitzy started playing out of his mind. I mean, Fitzy just started playing out of his mind on that little bit of a streak. You know what I mean? So, 2019, man, we thought we had something when we won 5 games there. We're like, man, if we just close this out, but here we are, eh?
Like, hey, even the roster the next year to get 10 wins out of the roster the next year. Yeah,
dude, I'm telling you, eh? If Tua enters that top 12 realm with this offense and that defense performs the way it did last, 8 of the 9 games last year, this team's gonna make a lot of freaking noise, man. Like, this team's gonna make a ton of, in my opinion, at least.
Very possible. It is a very competitive AFC too, so that's difficult. There's a lot of teams that are saying the same thing, so it's gonna be fun.
Well, let me hit you with this, right? Let me just, and then maybe this is Dolphin fan logic. Look at the Bengals last year. All right. People can say what they want, but when you watch the film, even down to the statistics, coming out of year 1, there was not a big gap between Joe Burrow and Tua Tagovailoa after year 1, even down to the statistics. There just wasn't, right? And one guy was on 60% hip. The other guy ended up tearing his ACL, right? So there wasn't a massive gap. But what did they do? They add Riley Reif. They draft Jackson Carman. They draft Jamar Chase, which allows T. Higgins to become a number 2 and Tyler Boyd to become a 3. CJ Uzomah shows up in the red zone consistently. And Joe Mixon, even though they're the 22nd ranked offensive line, Joe Mixon has one of the better offensive lines he's ever had and has a career year. And then Joe Burrow just reaps the reward. It's like, you look at, here's my thing. This is what I don't get with these Dolphin fans that love Herbert. Well, I mean, you can love Herbert, that's fine. But you know the fans that get caught on the highlight throws or the bombs, this whole Tua can't throw deep narrative. Listen, and I know you'll agree with this. Tom Brady didn't make a living throwing bombs. He made a living off of being elite efficiency, right? Elite efficiency, elite accuracy, and a high football IQ. That'll win 10 times out of 10 against the guy with the big arm, right? Because, hey, I respect Herbert's talent, but he's starting to look like he's going to be Phillip Rivers with a bigger arm.
And you mentioned Brady. Those first 3 Super Bowl runs, I mean, before Randy Moss got there, how many times were you seeing Brady really throw the deep ball?
He hadn't thrown for 40 touchdowns yet, right? Until he showed up, right?
Right, I believe so, yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And look at Joey B on that Super Bowl run, David. Joey B didn't give you the 500-yard, 5-touchdown a game Joey B we saw in those 2 games in the regular season. He was just efficient with the football, make the throws on the short to intermediate level. When the defense gives you the deep shot, take it, complete it, and make those 3, 4, 5 throws a game that'll help swing the momentum in your offense's favor and help you win the game. Elite efficient, and don't turn the ball over, right? Like that wins.
And Tua, having played behind the offensive lines he has already played behind, and sure, even we drew up some of the potential concerns that this O-line still has, but it figures to certainly be an improvement. And I mean, it's almost going to be like let's say a baseball player with a donut on a bat, swinging that with that extra weight on deck, and then when he takes it off and goes up to the plate, now if that bat feels so much lighter, it's almost going to be like that metaphorically for Tua now playing behind an improved offensive line where he's gotten so used to having to get the ball out so quick and be efficient when he's facing pressure so quickly, and then any improvement is really going to only see just possibly a tremendous improvement for him.
I want to say it was Josh Mosier. It was one of the guys from South Florida media. They put out a video, and it was at OTAs. It was like one of the first days of OTAs, and it was Teddy and Tua, and they were just dropping back. One was throwing to Tyreek, the other one was throwing to Waddle. But you know what the noticeable thing that stuck out to me was? Teddy, Teddy, clean 3-step drop. Tua, 5-step. And you know why? You could tell it's because he's used to having to drop back far because of the pressure, right? He's used to, there's no 1.5, boom, it's out. There's no 3, boom, it's out. I got to drop back 5 and then wait and survey, and then I got to move, right? Like you could just tell little things like that, because all they were doing was just snapping the ball and just throwing it. Like there was nothing to it, but I noticed one.
It wasn't a design 3-step 5. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. It was
totally,
just like, just drop back and throw it, right? It was a quick out. Just drop back and throw the quick out. And Tua was just naturally a deeper drop. And that just cues off to me as, okay, he's just used to it. I mean, what people don't realize is, Tua, we're talking about a guy who he's had points where he hasn't been able to trust his weapons. And most of the time he hasn't been able to trust his protection. And I mean, you've watched college ball closely. You've watched NFL closely now. People forget, People forget bad habits form in bad environments, right? And that's what that kind of crap could cause, where last year you saw it. I mean, he wasn't setting his feet before he was throwing, right? Little stuff like his front foot wasn't aligned with where he wanted to throw the football. You were seeing little mechanical issues. You're seeing happy feet, mechanical issues with his feet that you would never, ever see before. And you could tell it was a result of bad protection, right? Bad habits form with bad protection. And a lot of fans don't ever take that into account. But what are your expectations in 2022 for Tua Tagovailoa? Like, you look at the talent around him, I think we can both agree. Before we got Tyreek and stuff, we expected him to take naturally a 3rd-year leap. However big that would be is up for debate, but we all expected a 3rd-year step. Now, obviously, our expectations is the minimal 3rd-year step is much bigger than what we thought it should be. What are your expectations in 2022 with this new offense, this new staff, and these new players around him?
Yeah, I was going to say, even before these moves, and I would have wanted to see Tua get to top 15 range, at least just be a top half starting quarterback in the NFL. If you're talking about 32 teams, just be better than 16th. And with these you got Tyreek Hill, more weapons. You have Hill now, the same way you talked about with the Bengals last year, and guys becoming number 2 now. Jalen Waddle becomes number 2 because of that. Mike Gesicki is still there. Cedric Wilson, you have improved running game, improved offensive line. Then I mean, at least top 12. Like that's a number you throw out there. I hadn't even really thought of where I want to see to it, but I mean, I think 12 is very reasonable when you talk about it. So and what he has built around him now, and to boot, you have a coach supporting him, and now his new star receiver, instilling confidence in him. I think all those things considered, all those factors, put that realm of top 12 with everything he has at his disposal now. Go out and get it, Tua.
Do you think the media overreacted to what Tyreek said about Tua?
Oh, of course. We talked about it. The national media. I mean, I'm watching ESPN's Get Up this morning. Mike Greenberg is still talking about it to this day, and it's been more than a week now since those comments were made. And then even since just about a week since we heard the Patrick Mahomes reaction, and it's still brought up every day. You can tell people are really short on content across all platforms. Now, well, you're in Canada. Hey, we have the Stanley Cup finals now.
Avalanche are running away with that, brother. It's over already.
Yeah. That's already over. Well, hey, didn't Tampa Bay come back from down 2-0 in the last series against the Rangers?
But these Avalanche are a different breed, my friend.
Yeah. I'm not going to act like a hockey expert, but it sure looks like it. I've only seen the Panthers just get crushed by the Lightning in the postseason.
That's what I've seen. I'm a Penguins fan, and when the Rangers knocked us out, and you guys got knocked out, I said we were the best chance. I thought we were the best chance to beat the Tampa Bay Lightning. And I literally said on air, I said the best chance for the Lightning not to three-peat, we got to pray the Avalanche make the finals. And here we are. So I don't want to see a three-peat, bro. In any sport, I don't like seeing the same team win over and over and over again, unless it's your team. You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course.
Is there anyone who you think, I know we talked about Rowe, I know we talked a little bit about Gaskin. Is there any veteran on the roster bubble you think might surprise people that could get cut?
Yeah, those two that we mentioned are some potential ones. Let me see. I'm probably looking at linebacker has had the guys brought back that were there last year, and you made additions when you talk about both on the edge with Melvin Ingram as outside linebacker, and then you drafted a couple at inside with Channing Tindall and 7th rounder Cameron Good. Now I talked to Brendan Scarlett a little bit, where now he's been working as a down lineman as well, trying to
you put that
help
in an
out
article,
there.
didn't you? You put that in an article, didn't you? Yeah, I remember reading that.
Yeah. Where Brendan Scarlett talked about it, he's trying to add that versatility as well. So that's something to look out for him.
You think Preston makes it?
Preston Williams, you said?
Yeah, do you think he makes it with Eric Azukama? And I brother, don't sleep on that boy Lynn Bowden. He got clocked at 4.37 at Perform this offseason, man.
Someone in that wide receiver core is not going to make it with the additions. And then, they drafted Eric Azukama. So, Now, Preston Williams is the biggest receiver that the Dolphins have. So if you want that big possession receiver option, and he flashed a couple times in OTAs. I remember making some catches over the top of someone. But Azukama still doesn't have the Preston height, but he can go up and get a ball.
Did you see anything from him? What did you see at OTAs? Anything from him?
Not too much. I can't remember too many times where he
stood out,
made a big catch or something. But he's kind of in the build of a Devontae Parker. Looks like And hey, the Dolphins liked him. It was a 4th-round pick, where best player available to them on their board. They stuck to that BPA mentality with that one, which was a surprising pick position-wise. A lot of people didn't think a wide receiver would go, but definitely there's going to be some receiver that is an odd man out when it comes to making this 53. So that's for sure.
Back to Tyreek for a sec, because I forgot to ask you this. Did it shock you how the national media kind of made it like he said Tua was better, when all he said was he likes Tua's ball placement and accuracy better? And I mean, people were out here acting like he said Mahomes isn't going to get a gold jacket in Canton, and Tua is. I mean, everyone in their right mother, including Tua, knows Patrick Mahomes is probably the best natural thrower of the football since Aaron Rodgers entered the league. No one is going to argue that Tua is better than Patrick Mahomes. But you talked about Greenberg. Do you think it's an issue where a lot of the media is New York based? So we're talking with like Jets and Giants fans? Because David, I'm over here looking at Tua, and then I'm looking at Tebow, and I'm like, okay, they kind of got the same kind of controversy, yet they're both kind of the same nice guys. One's clearly more talented than the other in terms of Tua. They both had a little bit of that winner's DNA where they can win games they shouldn't really win. And then you look at them both and you're like, but, I'm starting to ask myself, is the Illuminati real? Like, are we dealing with Satanists in the media? Is it the Christian thing that these guys are coming at him for? Like, why is he such a lightning rod of controversy when he's the nicest, most quiet, keeps to himself guy out there? And he's literally, if you think about it, David, you want Tua to hit because he is the ideal franchise quarterback with how he conducts himself. Why do you think he's just such a lightning? I know you talk about people needing content, but even when content is plentiful in the middle of the season, he is just a lightning rod of controversy. I mean, the media enjoys, I don't know what it is. I mean, what's your take? Because now you've been around him for over a year. I mean, you've talked with him personally. You've seen how nice of a kid this guy is, and you got to be scratching your head because this guy's not like Aaron Rodgers, over opinionated, will say stuff that'll rub people the wrong way. He's very, we talked about what he said earlier with Flores. Look at, even when he with Flores throws him under the bus, but he does it in such a nice way. Right?
Yeah. He didn't have anything nice to say, so he didn't say anything.
Exactly, right?
Right.
So what's your thoughts on this whole situation? Doesn't it make you scratch your head, David? Like,
It does, yeah. I've wondered the same thing as well sometimes because he does get over criticized. Sure, yeah. If you go to a fair level of criticism, that's understandable. But sometimes it's kind of like people do seem to go out of their way. I don't know if it's just whatever you haven't seen, like because you have a lefty Samoan quarterback, and I don't know. It's just maybe it's that for a lot of people, it's the first time seeing something like that. I mean, we saw how long it took for so many to adjust to the idea of a black quarterback, and I mean, finally now everyone has come around to it. I hope so, for the most part. I mean, even a few years ago, a lot of people wanted to convert Lamar Jackson to a wide receiver, but I think part of it might just be just something that you're not used to seeing, and just being skeptical of it to begin with. Is one theory. I don't have anything solid on why he does receive. It does seem like a lot of hate for, that's oftentimes unwarranted.
Well, look what Bromar says in the comments. He says the media loved to at Bama, and now in Miami they don't. And me and you talked about before we went live here about the weird raps at Miami, and you talked about the heat and such like that. And that's a perfect point. I mean, you can remember you were following college football at the time. The nation was goo goo gaga over Tua when he was at Alabama, and now that he's here, and it's like, you know what, David? It's almost like, can I say this to you too? It's almost like a lot of people forget the severity of that hip injury and then forget it even happened, right? They were just like, no, Tua was supposed to be the exact same guy we saw before the hip injury at Alabama. And, this is what I've tried to tell fans, if we don't see that torque and velocity start to come back soon, maybe it never will because of that injury, right? Like maybe, see, the thing is a lot of us, evaluators evaluated the tape of Tua prior to the injury. And we can all agree, David, we haven't seen the Tua prior to the injury yet at this level. I mean, we can all agree with that. And when we've seen flashes of him, right? We saw a full game flash of that Arizona game in 2020. We've seen flashes of him, but we haven't seen him yet. It's like, and the thing I hate the most, David, is when you try to add context to the situation, it's called an excuse. And I absolutely despise that whole outlook on the whole Tua thing. But do you think now with Tyreek added, we have two legitimate 1,000? Do you think there's going to be the first year in quite some time where we might have 2,000-yard receivers between Waddle and Tyreek? Because, David, I don't see a scenario where Waddle isn't the best number 2 in the NFL. I mean, Tyreek, he's had DeMarcus Robinson and Mecole Hardman, Blazers, but they weren't very good route runners, didn't have very reliable hands, and his best number 2 option was Sammy Watkins, and Sammy Watkins was not a Blazer, right? So,
granted, not a receiver, but Travis Kelce's in the same offense as well. So.
Okay, yeah, exactly. But I'm talking about like receivers, right?
Yeah,
so,
receiver, right.
What do you like, guys opposite and such? What do you think this is? We have a legitimate legitimate chance to field 2,000-yard receivers? Because I remember even Omar Kelly and a couple other guys like JoeyShotz and such, I believe heading into the 2020 season, it was the 2020 or the 2021 season, I think it was 2020, they thought Preston and DVP would be 1,000-yard receivers each that year. Do you think
probably would be going into 2020?
Yeah, exactly. Do you think this is
because Preston had his rookie year? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I would say right. Yeah. If anyone thought Devontae and Preston were going to go 1,000 yards in the same season, then we should definitely, if we're being consistent, say, Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle can certainly go for 1,000 yards a piece, for sure. Being opposite of each other. Now, let's also say this will be a run-based offense first and foremost. So I think it's going to be a lot of, the run to set up the pass some. Mike McDaniel, that was his bread and butter for his time in San Francisco. Granted, he's also got a history working with receivers as well. So he's got really a full offensive mind, and then which has also helped him, learn the defensive side as well from game planning and such. But I mean, just to get back to the question, right? Definitely, Hill and Waddle can certainly reach 1,000 yards apiece. I would say so.
All right, I got 2 questions for you, brother. Then I'll let you get out of here. I appreciate your time. And they're based off the receiving core, and we'll talk about the tight end and the tight end Kelsey connection here for a sec. So our Kelsey is Mike Gesicki. All right, obviously he's not the same blocker or route runner that Travis Kelce is, but that's who our Kelsey is. what are your expectations with Mike Gesicki this season? I mean, because I talk about this a lot. Okay, we brought in John Embry, and I don't know if you remember him, but John Embry, if you remember, you go back to when he's at Cleveland, Jordan Cameron was actually one of the top tight end options in the NFL under him, and I see a lot of similarities in Jordan Cameron's game and Mike Gesicki's game. And then he came to Miami, but the concussions were too much for him. What are your expectations for Gesicki, and do you think they missed the boat by not extending him? Because, I mean, if he balls out, David, it's more than likely than not he won't be getting paid in Miami, right?
I think I lost my connection for a lot of that, but I heard Jordan Cameron's name. I was confused, but I heard the question. I did hear the question.
I'll tell you what it is. So John Embry, right? You look at, he came in the league. He worked with Tony Gonzalez. He worked with Chris Cooley.
Yes.
Chris Cooley's one of the best tight ends in the league under him. But he also made Jordan Cameron for a 2-year period one of the best tight ends in football.
That's right.
And I look at Gesicki and I look at Cameron, a lot of similarities in their game, right? So what do you expect from Gesicki this year? And do you think they missed the boat on not extending him? Because if he balls, he's probably not going to be paid in Miami, right?
Yeah. And, well, I do think it was very reasonable to give him the franchise tag.
Right.
What's that?
With Wilkins' money coming up too, right?
And Wilkins is, right. You give him the 5th-year option, and then he's going to be up pretty soon here. So, with Gesicki, I think it was pretty reasonable to give him the franchise tag right now because you want to see how he adjusts to a new system where also his blocking will be critical in the outside zone running scheme. So I think you want to see how he adjusts to that. And you know what you can do with him in the passing game. I know Mike McDaniel will find ways to play to his advantages and try to minimize his weaknesses while still obviously giving Gesicki the understanding you're also going to have to block. It's, that is a big facet of this offense, especially at the tight end position when you're talking about wide zone. So, I think it was fair to say, all right, we want this 1 year to see what we have in this system with Gesicki and then go with it now. But also, what you mentioned, then if he blows up, and granted, there's only one ball to go around, and he has Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle and Cedric Wilson there now, and a run game that's going to be heavily emphasized. So, maybe he doesn't end up putting those huge numbers while still having a huge impact for this offense, just because there is only this one ball to go around. If we're talking about Hill and Waddle both having 1,000-yard receiving seasons, then how much is going to be left afterward for Gesicki to go get?
For sure, especially when a guy like Hunter Long might emerge in this offense this year. Durham Smythe has been getting better every year, right? Durham Smythe has been getting better every year. One thing I wanted to ask you before we get out of here. Trent Sherfield, I was told privately, lock him in on the roster. This guy has taken Matt Collins' special team spot. He's a lock to make it, barring any injury or anything significant like that. What have been your early impressions when you've seen Trent Sherfield on the field during OTAs open to media? Have you been impressed with what you've seen with Sherfield?
You see him flash a couple times, make these catches, and you have to run in front of you, so you remind yourself, 14, wait, who's that again? Oh, yeah, Trent Sherfield. And actually, I mean, Wes Welker lights up talking about him. He's a guy who's worked with him in San Francisco to this point. They like his leadership qualities, a guy who's been in the system, and he can be that in that second unit, second tier on the depth chart receiver and special teams player. So now with Matt Collins no longer here, then he pretty much slides right into that role. So in all regards, both special teams from a receiving standpoint and leadership standpoint. So I think this staff really likes him.
All right, David. Training camp's about to start. This is it before you go. What are your expectations for the 2022 Dolphins? Playoff or bust? Playoff win or bust? What are your expectations?
Okay, I'll say, get into the playoffs. All right, that should be your goal, because if the Buffalo Bills are winning the AFC East, that means they're going to be on the road in the first round. So, considering, all right, it's going to be tougher if you have to go to face some possibly in the snow northern team. All right, I can understand if you get into the playoffs and lose your first round game and then take that building block for then future success later on. So I think if I'm a Dolphins fan, I say you're looking for a playoff appearance this year. Get to 10-7. That gets you in. Good. Get a wild card spot, and then look to take the next step in the future. I think that'll be a successful year, first season under Mike McDaniel.
Guys, we have almost 400 people in the room right now. Smash that like button, subscribe if you're new. David, it was an absolute pleasure, man. I always love having you on. Maybe we can do this a little bit more often. Maybe I'll get you in after training camp and we can chop it up again after you see what you see at training camp, man. Always a pleasure talking with you, my friend.
Sounds good, man. Yeah, appreciate it.
Absolutely appreciate you coming on, man. Thank you very much, dude. Guys, that's going to be it for this episode. I'm going to be back next time. We're going to do a little bit of a film study with Verone McKinley. That's coming this week as well. And let's take that off. We're going to look into Verone McKinley. And I got some themed shows coming up. Now we're getting into content season. So again, we got some film studies. We got a film study on Tyreek Hill going to come. We got a prospect preview, like I said, on Verone McKinley. I'm going to do a prospect preview on Zaquandre White. I want to do a film study on Jalen Waddle's rookie season. I also want to do a film study on Terron Armstead, and we're going to do a film study on Mike McDaniel's offense and what we can expect in Miami. I have access to San Francisco's playbook as well as the Shanahan-McDaniel playbook from Atlanta, so we're going to look into that. I want to do a little bit of a breakdown of what we can expect offensively, so a lot of content coming, and then I got a bunch of themed shows coming up as well too. So again, I want to thank the homie David Furones for coming on the show. Absolute pleasure having him on. I want to thank each and every one of you. I'm probably going to do a Kellen Deich perfect, but that'll be after I do all those guys. So if time permits, then you'll get a Kellen one as well. So appreciate all of you guys for joining in. I'm probably going to be back tomorrow. Expect me tomorrow. Tyreek Hill. We'll talk some Tyreek Hill tomorrow. We'll go over some news and we'll set you up. But expect me tomorrow. I'm going to probably be here a little bit later tomorrow, probably around the same time, around 8 p.m. Eastern tomorrow. Again, thank you to David Furones for coming on. We'll start getting him on the show a little bit more. Maybe make him exclusive to Phinside the NFL. I don't know. All right. Thank you. Episode 500 is an absolute pleasure. I can't believe we've done 500 episodes. It's crazy. I want to do a show this week where I'm going to open it up to you guys. I haven't done a panel in a while, so I'm going to open it up to you guys this week. Probably have some panel time on one of the shows. It's been a minute, but I'll see y'all tomorrow night. I appreciate each and every one of you for coming through. Man, I hope all of y'all had a fantastic Father's Day as well. Absolute great day with my daughters and my wife. Wife did some awesome stuff, had an awesome dinner and all that. But again, awesome stuff from David. Always a pleasure having him on. One of the truly good people, in this industry. Always so open, always willing to talk. Honestly, just a great guy. So it's been a pleasure getting to know him, just like it's been a pleasure getting to know you guys. I mean, I can't believe we've done 500 episodes. I mean, I told my wife, I'm like, I'm episode 500. She's like, holy crap, you've done 500 episodes. I mean, we're halfway to 1,000 here. We are halfway to the century mark right now, my friends. Think about this one. Halfway to the century mark. If I didn't feel old before, I feel old now. That's for sure. David was fire Rome. He's honestly such a good guy. Always a good conversation with him, man. But halfway to 1,000 people. Can you believe this? I remember when I was pitching this channel idea to EM many moons ago now, and I remember, him. It was the middle of the pandemic, and he was like, I got some time. Let's do this. And he was the one who always told me, hey, man, if I can't continue to do this with you, you can go do it yourself. Trust me, you're good enough. You got this. And EM always pushed me to do this myself. So I got to send a big shout out to EM Dolphin fan for always pushing me to be better and be better at this and to do this, really. So it's my homie right there. And I want to thank all of you, all the mods, everyone who just smashed the like button, everyone who takes the time out to view, everyone who hits me up on Twitter. I appreciate all of you guys. And I hope everyone stays happy, healthy, safe, and blessed. I will see all of y'all tomorrow night. I love each and every one of you. Have a fantastic evening. And as always, I've said it for 500 episodes. I'll say it for 500 more. fins up all day, every day, baby.